Welcome back to the channel The Coin Empire, and today we are diving deep into one of the most unbelievable and controversial stories in the world of rare coins, the mysterious 1964 1-cent United States coin that is rumored and discussed among collectors to be worth as much as $80 million due to a combination of extreme minting errors, historical circumstances, production anomalies, and rare experimental strikes that may have occurred during one of the most confusing transitions in U.S. coinage history. And before you dismiss this as just another exaggerated coin story, you need to understand how the 1960s were a turning point for American currency production, especially at the U.S. Mint, where copper composition debates, planchet shortages, experimental metal compositions, and high-speed automated minting systems created the perfect environment for rare mistakes that today could turn an ordinary-looking penny into one of the most valuable objects on Earth. And when we talk about the 1964 penny, we are actually entering a period where the U.S. Mint was under enormous pressure due to rising coin demand, silver coin hoarding, and nationwide circulation shortages, which led to rushed production cycles and increased chances of errors slipping through quality control systems that were not as advanced as modern standards. And one of the most important factors that makes this coin so legendary is the possibility of wrong planchet strikes, where a 1964 penny may have been accidentally struck on experimental bronze, silver testing blanks, or even leftover foreign metal stock that was never intended for circulation coins, and such an error would instantly elevate the coin into a category of extreme rarity because the mismatch between design and metal composition creates a unique signature that collectors and grading experts would consider almost impossible to replicate. And another major factor contributing to the rumored $80 million valuation is the possibility of double die obverse errors, where the date, lettering, or Lincoln portrait appears slightly duplicated due to misalignment during the hubbing process, a mistake that in normal coins might only be worth a few hundred or $1,000, but in a 1964 transitional context could become exponentially more valuable if combined with other rare minting conditions. And we also have to consider off-center strikes, where the coin blank was not properly aligned in the press, resulting in partial images, missing borders, or dramatically shifted designs that make each piece visually unique and highly desirable to elite collectors who seek one-of-a-kind mint mistakes. And what makes the 1964 penny story even more fascinating is the speculation around experimental copper alloy testing that may have occurred behind closed doors at the U.S. Mint as they prepared for future composition changes in coinage, meaning that a small number of pennies could have been struck using metal blends that were never officially released to the public, and if even one of those coins survived in pristine condition, it could easily reach astronomical values because collectors place extreme premiums on prototype or test strike currency. And beyond the physical mint errors, there is also the historical demand factor, which plays a massive role in the valuation of such a coin. Because rare coins are not just about mistakes but about the story they carry, and in the case of the 1964 penny, the story includes economic instability, transition away from silver coinage and other denominations, and increasing public awareness of coin collecting as a serious investment activity, all of which contribute to making rare era coins from this era extremely desirable in today's global collector market. And we must also consider the grading condition, which can completely transform the value of a coin from a few cents to millions of dollars, because a 1964 penny with perfect mint state preservation, meaning it has no wear, no scratches, original red copper luster, and flawless strike quality, combined with a rare minting error, would be the holy grail of numismatics and could theoretically command prices that reach into the tens of millions due to competitive bidding among elite collectors, museums, and private investors who see rare coins as alternative assets similar to rare paintings or historic artifacts. And another layer of mystery comes from reported but unverified discoveries of unusual 1964 pennies that appear slightly different under magnification, showing unusual rim patterns, misaligned dies, or metallic discoloration that suggests non-standard production processes. And while many of these claims remain unverified, they fuel the excitement and speculation that keeps collectors searching through rolls of pennies even today, hoping to find the next life-changing discovery. And the idea of an $80 million valuation is also driven by the psychology of rarity, where The fewer examples believed to exist, the higher the perceived value becomes, especially if the coin is tied to a famous discovery story or a private collection auction where wealthy bidders compete aggressively to secure a once-in-a-lifetime piece. And we cannot ignore the possibility of double-struck errors where a coin is accidentally struck twice by the minting press, creating overlapping designs that appear chaotic yet fascinating. And if such an error occurred on a 1964 penny under unusual metal composition circumstances, it would create a combination error coin so rare that it would be nearly impossible to assign a stable market price, leading auction houses to estimate values based on bidding behavior rather than historical precedent. And there is also the factor of provenance, which means the ownership history of the coin, because if a 1964 era penny was ever discovered in a famous estate, a historical hoard, or linked to a well-known numismatist collection, it would immediately increase its credibility and market value due to documented authenticity. And the U.S. Mint itself has historically acknowledged that errors do happen even under strict quality control, especially during high-volume production years, which means that the theoretical existence of an extraordinary 1964 penny cannot be completely ruled out. And this uncertainty is exactly what drives collectors to keep investigating, analyzing, and preserving every unusual coin they find. And when you combine all these elements together, the wrong planchet theory, the double die possibility, the off-center strike anomalies, experimental alloy speculation, pristine condition rarity, historical significance, collector psychology, and auction market dynamics, you begin to understand how a simple 1-cent coin could theoretically reach a valuation as extreme as $80 million in the imagination of the numismatic world, and whether or not such a coin has been officially confirmed. The legend itself continues to grow stronger every year as new collectors enter the market, and old discoveries are re-examined with modern technology like high-resolution scanning and metallurgical testing. And that is why the 1964 penny remains one of the most talked about mystery coins in the world, a symbol of how even the smallest piece of currency can hold the potential for unimaginable value when history, error, and rarity collide in just the right way. Next, 1976 1-cent coin. Today we are diving into one of the most astonishing, debated, and almost unbelievable stories ever discussed in the world of rare coins, the legendary and mysterious 1976 1-cent United States coin that is rumored among collectors, investors, and numismatic historians to carry a staggering potential value of $76 million due to a rare combination of minting errors, experimental production theories, transitional era anomalies, and extraordinary preservation conditions that together create what many call the perfect storm of coin rarity. And before we even begin to break down the details, you need to understand that the year 1976 was not just any ordinary year in American minting history, because it marked the United States Bicentennial era, where the entire nation was focused on commemorations, redesigned coinage for other denominations, increased production demands, and heightened public interest in currency, which placed immense pressure on the U.S. Mint facilities to produce massive quantities of coins at extremely high speeds while maintaining quality control systems that were already struggling to keep up with industrial demand. And in such environments, even the smallest deviation in the minting process can lead to legendary errors that decades later become the subject of intense collector fascination and extreme valuation speculation. And the 1976 penny in this story is not just any ordinary Lincoln cent, but rather a theoretical and heavily discussed error specimen believed to have been created through a rare combination of misaligned dies, experimental planchets, and high-speed press malfunction that together produced a coin so unique that only a handful of possible examples may exist, or perhaps only one survived in perfect condition. And one of the most significant factors contributing to its rumored value is the possibility of it being struck on a wrong planchet, which in numismatic terms means that the copper-based penny design may have been accidentally struck on a metal blank intended for another denomination or experimental composition, possibly including leftover alloy from transitional testing batches used for other coins during the same era. And such a mismatch immediately elevates a coin into the highest tier of rarity, because it represents a fundamental breakdown in the minting process where design and material no longer align correctly, creating a physical artifact that should not exist under normal production rules. And another major error type associated with this legendary 1976 penny is the double die obverse effect, where the coin's design elements such as the date, the portrait of Abraham Lincoln, or the inscriptions like Liberty and In God We Trust appear slightly duplicated or shadowed due to a misalignment during the hubbing process, where the die itself was impressed more than once at slightly different angles. And while double die errors are known in many coins, the extreme rarity comes when such an error is combined with an already unusual minting circumstance like experimental metal usage or proof like strike conditions, which can dramatically multiply its value in the eyes of collectors who specialize in error coin classification. And beyond double dies, there is also the possibility of off-center strikes, where the coin blank is not properly centered within the striking chamber, resulting in partial images, missing design elements, and dramatically shifted visuals that make each piece visually distinct and highly collectible, especially when the error percentage is severe enough to leave a large portion of the coin blank while still retaining visible date and mint mark details. And the 1976 penny story becomes even more fascinating when we consider the possibility of strike-through errors where foreign materials such as grease, dust, cloth fragments, or even metal shavings accidentally interfere between the die and the planchet during striking, resulting in distorted or incomplete design impressions that create unusual textures and patterns on the coin's surface that collectors often describe as fingerprints of the minting process itself. And another layer of speculation surrounding this coin involves the idea of transitional production experiments, where the U.S. Mint may have been testing different copper alloys or plating techniques during the mid-1970s as part of cost reduction research due to rising copper prices and economic pressures, meaning that some pennies from that era could theoretically contain unusual metal compositions not officially documented in standard mint records, and if a 1976 penny were discovered with a verified non-standard alloy composition, it would instantly become one of the most important numismatic discoveries of all time, because it would represent a missing link in the evolution of U.S. coin production technology. And this possibility alone fuels massive interest among collectors who spend countless hours analyzing coin surfaces under magnification, conducting weight comparisons, and examining edge characteristics in hopes of identifying anomalies that could indicate a hidden rarity. And the rumored $76 million valuation is not just based on the physical rarity alone, but also on the psychological and economic dynamics of the collector market, where extreme scarcity combined with dramatic storytelling can lead to competitive bidding wars among wealthy collectors, private museums, and investment funds that view rare coins as alternative assets similar to fine art, rare diamonds, or historic manuscripts. And when such high net worth individuals enter a bidding environment, the price of a truly unique coin can escalate beyond traditional valuation models and enter the realm of speculative historical value, where the final price is determined not by intrinsic material worth but by emotional desire, prestige, competition, and the desire to own a one-of-a-kind artifact. And another important factor that contributes to the extreme valuation theory is the condition grading of the coin, because numismatic grading standards such as mint state classification require coins to be free of wear, damage, and surface imperfections while retaining original mint luster. And if a 1976 era penny existed in a perfect mint state condition with full red copper brilliance, and no signs of circulation were combined with a major minting error, it would instantly reach the highest possible tier of collectible desirability. And in the world of coin collecting, even small differences in grade can result in exponential changes in value, meaning that a coin graded MS65 might be worth thousands, while an MS70 specimen of the same type could be worth millions, especially if paired with rarity factors. And when we combine this grading impact with the potential error categories such as wrong planchet strikes, double strikes, clipped planchets, lamination errors, and die cracks, we begin to understand how a seemingly ordinary penny could theoretically evolve into a multimillion-dollar artifact under the right conditions. And the 1976 penny also carries symbolic importance because it comes from a historically significant year in American history where national identity, economic transitions, and technological advancements in minting processes were all converging at the same time, creating a unique environment where production inconsistencies were more likely to occur compared to more stable decades. And collectors often argue that coins from transitional or high-pressure minting years tend to produce the most valuable errors because the combination of experimentation and volume increases the probability of rare mistakes slipping through quality control systems. And there are also theories about die pairing mismatches where a 1976 reverse design intended for a different production batch may have been accidentally paired with an obverse die from a different stage of preparation, resulting in subtle design inconsistencies that are not immediately noticeable to the naked eye but become significant under expert examination. And some advanced numismatists even speculate about micro-doubling and class 4 hub doubling effects that can only be detected under high magnification and specialized lighting conditions, which makes authentication extremely complex and adds another layer of mystery and exclusivity to already rare specimens. And the fascination with this coin also grows because of reported discoveries of unusual 1976 pennies found in circulation rolls, estate collections, and old bank hoards that show slight deviations in weight, color tone, or strike sharpness, suggesting that there may indeed be undiscovered varieties waiting to be authenticated and classified by professional grading services. And every time a new unusual specimen is discovered, it reignites global interest in searching through old coin jars, inherited collections, and circulation change, because the possibility of finding a life-changing coin remains one of the most exciting aspects of numismatics. And when we talk about the potential $76 million valuation, we are essentially discussing the absolute extreme ceiling of what a perfect storm coin could achieve if it combined extreme rarity, flawless condition, documented mint error classification, verified authenticity, and intense global bidding competition all at once. And while skeptics argue that such valuations are theoretical and unlikely to be realized in actual market conditions, the history of numismatics has repeatedly. Next, 1975 D1-cent coin. Today we are diving into one of the most fascinating, controversial, and almost unbelievable stories ever imagined in the world of rare coins, the legendary 1975 D1-cent United States coin that is rumored among collectors, online numismatic communities, and speculative investors to be worth an astonishing $75 million due to a perfect combination of extreme minting errors, rare production anomalies, experimental minting theories, and extraordinary preservation circumstances that together create what many describe as a once-in-a-lifetime numismatic mystery. And before we go deep into the technical explanations and the possible scenarios that could lead to such a massive valuation, you need to understand the historical and industrial context of the mid-1970s at the United States Mint, where production demands were extremely high. Coin circulation was rapidly expanding due to population growth and economic activity, and the Denver Mint in particular, marked by the D-Mint mark, was operating under intense pressure to produce billions of coins annually while maintaining strict but not perfect quality control systems that were still vulnerable to human error, mechanical misalignment, die fatigue, and material inconsistencies. And in such a high-speed industrial environment, even the smallest deviation in die preparation or planchet feeding could result in rare and valuable mint errors that decades later become legendary among collectors. And the 1975 D penny in this story is not just any ordinary Lincoln cent, but a theoretical extreme rarity believed to have originated from a unique combination of wrong planchet striking, double die obverse distortion, off-center press alignment, and possibly experimental copper alloy usage that may have occurred during internal mint testing phases aimed at reducing production costs due to rising copper prices in the 1970s. And one of the most significant possibilities that makes this coin so valuable is the wrong planchet error theory, where a 1975 D penny may have been accidentally struck on a blank intended for another denomination or experimental metal composition, possibly including leftover stock from transitional minting experiments, or foreign coin blanks that were mistakenly fed into the press system. And such an error would immediately elevate the coin into a category of extreme rarity because it represents a fundamental breakdown in the minting process where the intended design and physical material do not match, creating a coin that should not exist under normal production conditions. And when collectors encounter wrong planchet coins, they often become highly valuable because they are physical evidence of mint system failures that are both rare and difficult to reproduce. And another major contributing factor to the rumored $75 million valuation is the possibility of a dramatic double-dyed verse error where the design elements such as the portrait of Abraham Lincoln, the inscriptions, "Liberty and in God We Trust," or the date 1975 appear doubled or shadowed due to a misalignment during the hubbing process where the die itself receives multiple slightly offset impressions. And while double die errors are relatively known in numismatics, what makes them extremely valuable is the combination with other rare conditions such as perfect mint state preservation or additional striking anomalies that compound rarity factors into exponential value increases. And in the case of a hypothetical 1975 penny, if such a double die error were combined with a wrong planchet strike and a pristine uncirculated condition, it would create a multi-layered error coin so rare that traditional valuation models would struggle to assign a fixed price, leading instead to auction-driven speculation that can reach extreme levels when competitive bidders are involved. And beyond double die errors, another important category of mint mistakes that may contribute to the legend of this coin is the off-center strike error, where the coin blank is not properly centered in the striking chamber, resulting in partial designs, missing edges, or dramatically shifted imagery that creates visually unique specimens, each one different from the next. And collectors often highly value severe off-center strikes, especially when the date and mint mark remain visible, because they represent clear evidence of mechanical misalignment during the minting process. And if a 1975 penny exhibited a significant off-center strike combined with strong detail retention, it would already be considered highly collectible even without additional error types. But when combined with other anomalies, its value could increase dramatically. And another fascinating possibility that fuels the extreme valuation theory is the strike-through error, where foreign materials such as grease, dust, cloth fibers, or metal fragments accidentally interfere between the die and planchet during striking, causing unusual surface textures, missing design elements, or distorted features that make each coin visually distinct and scientifically interesting. And in a high-value scenario, a strike-through error combined with other minting anomalies would further increase rarity classification because it shows multiple simultaneous failures in the production environment. And we also need to consider the possibility of die cracks and die deterioration errors, where aging mint dies develop fractures over time due to repeated high-pressure strikes resulting in raised lines or irregular textures on the coin surface. And while die cracks alone are not extremely valuable, when combined with other major errors and exceptional condition, they can become part of a complex error profile that significantly enhances collector interest. And the 1975 penny also exists within a historically important period where the United States Mint was beginning to explore cost-saving measures due to inflationary pressures and rising copper prices, which led to increased interest in alternative metal compositions and more efficient production methods, meaning that there is always a theoretical possibility that experimental planchets or test alloys were being used in limited quantities during this era. And if even a single 1975 penny were struck using an undocumented experimental alloy, it would immediately become one of the most significant discoveries in numismatic history, because it would represent a missing piece of mint production experimentation that was never officially recorded. And this uncertainty is exactly what fuels speculation and keeps collectors searching through rolls of coins, estate collections, and circulation finds in hopes of discovering hidden anomalies. And another important aspect of the $75 million valuation theory is the condition grading system used by professional coin grading services, where coins are evaluated based on strike quality, luster, surface preservation, and eye appeal. And in this system, even tiny differences in condition can result in massive value differences, especially when combined with rarity, meaning that a 1975 penny in perfect MS-70 mint state condition with full red copper brilliance and no visible imperfections would already be extremely rare. But if combined with major minting errors, its value would increase exponentially. And collectors in the high-end numismatic market often compete aggressively for such perfect condition coins because they represent the absolute pinnacle of preservation and rarity combined. And another factor that contributes to the mythic value of this coin is the psychological aspect of rarity, where collectors assign increasing value to objects that are believed to exist in extremely limited quantities or possibly as single surviving specimens. And in auction environments, this psychological effect often leads to bidding wars where emotional desire and prestige outweigh rational pricing models, pushing values far beyond traditional estimates. And in the case of a legendary 1975-era penny, the combination of extreme rarity, historical curiosity, and era complexity could attract wealthy private collectors, museums, and investment entities all competing for ownership. And we must also consider the role of provenance, or ownership history, because if such a coin were ever discovered in a famous collection, estate inheritance, or documented mint bag hoard, its authenticity and value would increase significantly due to traceable historical evidence, and provenance often plays a crucial role in establishing legitimacy for high-value coins, especially those with unusual characteristics. And there are also theories within the numismatic community about multi-strike errors, where a coin is accidentally struck multiple times within the press, resulting in overlapping images and distorted designs that create chaotic but highly collectible visual patterns. And if a 1975 penny exhibited multiple strikes combined with misaligned dies and unusual planchet composition, it would represent one of the most complex era coins imaginable. And complexity in era coins is often directly correlated with increased collector interest because it demonstrates multiple simultaneous failures in minting processes that are statistically extremely unlikely to occur together. And another interesting aspect of this coin's legend is the possibility of clipped planchet errors, where a portion of the coin blank is last 1978 1-cent coin. Today we are diving into one of the most extraordinary, mind-blowing, and heavily debated stories ever imagined in the world of rare coins, the legendary 1978 1-cent United States coin that is rumored among collectors, online numismatic researchers, and speculative investors to be worth an unbelievable $70 million due to a combination of extreme minting errors, rare production anomalies, experimental strike theories, mechanical failures inside the Denver Mint, and extraordinary preservation circumstances that together form what many call a perfect storm of numismatic rarity. And before we go deep into every possible explanation and theory, you need to understand the historical and industrial environment of 1978 at the United States Mint, where production demands were extremely intense, inflation was affecting metal costs, coin circulation was increasing rapidly across the country, vending machine usage was rising, and the Denver Mint, marked by the D Mint mark, was producing billions of coins annually under high-speed automated presses that were constantly pushed to their operational limits, which inevitably increased the probability of mechanical errors, die fatigue, planchet inconsistencies, and human oversight mistakes slipping into circulation unnoticed. And in such a high-pressure environment, even the smallest deviation in striking pressure or planchet feeding alignment could result in rare and valuable mint errors that decades later become legendary discoveries among collectors who search for these anomalies in hopes of uncovering life-changing finds. And the 1978 penny in this story is not just any ordinary Lincoln cent, but rather a theoretical ultra-rare error specimen believed to have been created through a rare combination of multiple minting failures occurring simultaneously, including wrong planchet usage, double die obverse distortion, off-center strike misalignment, die clash artifacts, strike-through contamination, and possibly experimental alloy testing that may have been conducted quietly during the late 1970s as the United States Mint explored cost reduction strategies due to rising copper prices and increasing production demands. And one of the most significant possibilities that contributes to the rumored $70 million valuation is the wrong planchet theory, where a 1978 penny may have been accidentally struck on a blank intended for another denomination or experimental metal composition, possibly including leftover stock from transitional mint testing, or even foreign coin blanks that mistakenly entered the minting system during high-volume production runs. And such a wrong planchet error immediately elevates a coin into an elite rarity category because it represents a fundamental breakdown in the minting process, where the design of the coin does not match the physical material it is struck upon, creating a coin that should not exist under normal production conditions and making it highly desirable to advanced collectors who specialize in mint anomalies. And another major contributing factor to this theoretical value is the possibility of a severe double die obverse error, where the design elements such as Abraham Lincoln's portrait, the inscriptions "Liberty" and "I in God We Trust," or the date 1978 appear doubled or shadowed due to a misalignment during the hubbing process where the die receives multiple impressions at slightly offset angles, resulting in a visible doubling effect that is permanent and cannot be removed because it is part of the die itself rather than post-mint damage. And while doubled die pennies are known in numismatics, what makes them extremely valuable is when they appear in combination with other rare errors or in exceptionally high-grade mint state condition where the coin shows no circulation wear and retains full original luster. And in the case of a hypothetical 1978 D penny, if such a doubled die error were combined with a wrong planchet strike and flawless preservation, it would create an extremely rare multi-error specimen that could potentially reach extreme valuation levels due to its uniqueness. And beyond doubled die errors, another important category of minting mistakes that may contribute to the legend of this coin is the off-center strike error, where the coin blank is not properly centered inside the striking chamber, resulting in part of the design being missing or shifted dramatically to one side while the remaining portion of the design appears stretched or incomplete. And collectors often find severe off-center strikes highly valuable, especially when the date and mint mark remain visible, because they clearly demonstrate mechanical failure during the striking process, and each percentage of off-center displacement increases rarity and desirability. And if a 1978 D penny were discovered with a high degree off-center strike combined with strong detail retention, it would already be considered an important error coin, but when combined with other anomalies, its value could increase exponentially. And another fascinating possibility is the strike-through error, where foreign materials such as grease buildup, cloth fibers, dust particles, or even tiny metal shavings become trapped between the die and planchet during striking, resulting in missing details, blurred design areas, or unusual surface textures that make each coin visually unique and scientifically interesting, and in a high-end rarity scenario, a strike through error combined with multiple other minting anomalies would further increase collector interest because it indicates multiple simultaneous failures in minting quality control systems. And we also need to consider die clash errors, where obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet in between, causing design elements from one die to imprint onto the other, resulting in ghost-like impressions on future coins struck by the damaged dies. And if a 1978 D penny were struck using heavily clashed dies, it would show unusual overlapping design artifacts that are highly collectible when combined with other errors. And another important factor is die crack and die break errors, where repeated stress on the minting dies causes fractures that gradually grow and appear on coins as raised lines or large irregular features known as cuds, which can significantly enhance collectible value when they are dramatic and well defined. And the 1978 D penny exists within a particularly interesting historical production era where the United States Mint was increasingly focused on efficiency and cost control, which led to high-speed production systems that sometimes sacrificed precision for volume, making it more likely for unusual minting anomalies to occur unnoticed. And collectors often argue that high production years like the late 1970s are fertile ground for discovering rare error coins, because the sheer volume of coins produced increases the statistical probability of rare mistakes occurring and surviving quality control inspections. And another layer of speculation surrounding the 1978 D penny involves the possibility of lamination errors, where impurities in the metal planchet cause layers of the coin to peel or flake off, resulting in unusual surface textures and missing metal sections that create visually striking and collectible anomalies. And when lamination errors combine with other minting defects, the overall rarity classification increases significantly, because it indicates multiple independent production issues affecting a single coin. And there are also theories about broad strike errors, where the coin is struck without the collared die in place, allowing the metal to spread outward beyond normal diameter, resulting in a thinner and wider coin with distorted rim structure. And a 1978 D broad strike penny combined with other errors would be an extremely rare specimen due to the multiple system failures required for its creation, and the rumored $70 million valuation is not based solely on physical rarity, but also on the speculative dynamics of the high-end numismatic market, where extreme scarcity combined with compelling storytelling and collector competition can drive prices far beyond traditional valuation models. And in such markets, wealthy collectors, private museums, And investment groups often compete aggressively for unique specimens, especially those with documented mint errors and exceptional preservation status. And another important aspect is condition grading, where professional services evaluate coins based on strike quality, surface preservation, luster, eye appeal, and overall authenticity. And a 1978 D penny in perfect MS-70 condition with full red copper brilliance and flawless surfaces would already be extremely rare on its own, but when combined with multiple major mint errors it becomes a top-tier numismatic candidate for extreme valuation, and collectors often place extraordinary premiums on perfect condition coins because they represent the highest possible state of preservation and visual appeal. And when rarity and condition intersect, the value curve increases dramatically, sometimes exponentially, especially in competitive auction environments. And another factor that contributes to the myth of this coin is the psychological effect of rarity, where collectors assign greater value to objects believed to be unique or nearly impossible to find, and this psychological pressure often results in bidding wars where emotional desire overtakes logical pricing.